Hey, you're listening to Fat and Greasy Citizens, a podcast about Shakespeare. I'm Fat.
And I'm Greasy. Every week we do a deep dive into every act of every Shakespeare play ever written, mostly while drinking.
More specifically, I'm Chuck. I'm a former English major and now a digital editor who cares a lot about Shakespeare.
And I'm Gabe. Let's do it!
Greetings and huzzah, citizens! It is us, QE1 Electric Booger Fun, welcoming you to Fat and Greasy Citizens. This week, Two Gentlemen of Verona, Acts 4 and 5, in which a lot goes down, people. Banished Valentine falls in with outlaws. Julia dresses as a young boy and learns more of Proteus's betrayal and love. Proteus tries to force himself on Sylvia. Yet in the end, the couples plan to get married? Impossible? Nope. Trigger warning. The end of this play does involve an attempted rape by Proteus, and it is discussed as it is integral to the plot.
Well, you just blew my mind. I assumed that that bookshelf was infinite on either side. I saw an edge.
Welcome
now
to
I'm a flat earther.
Library of Alexandria. Also,
now I
where
believe in a
keep all
flat
my
earth.
uncanny X-Men. All right.
Look at all those Funko Pops.
She scrolls up, goes up for an inch, like you're in a meeting with work. It goes up for top, and it's just a bunch of Spider-Gwen Funko Pops. Like, oh, my respect for you was dwindled immediately. All right, so I feel like I'm really happy with where things were in Act 4 and Act 5. Not because it's good, but because like I feel like I'm kind of starting to understand I'm starting to understand that it doesn't always have to be good to a certain degree.
Yes,
and that like this is just an uneven work, and whereas I think because Shrew was mixed with uneven work with just god awful sexism, that like I had to like find a way to either say it's horrible or it's redeemable. And here I could just be like, I read a little bit of background in the introduction, and they were just like, yeah, we don't even know if like we lost half of this story because it doesn't make any sense, or if he just didn't have it at this point or what. But it was just like, it's like, oh, this is like one of the books in the Bible. It doesn't make any sense. It could be that God is ineffable, or it could be that they just lost half the chapter, and we really shouldn't be not eating shrimp just because it says to in this chapter.
Yeah, there's a whole paragraph or two that is totally contradicts everything, but we don't know where it is. So
he literally keeps forgetting what city they're in. It's great. He's like,
yeah. Well, it's funny. At one time, Valentine tells the outlaws that he was there for something like 16 months or something.
You're like, wait, what?
And I was like, really?
I was like, I could see like you can play with time and whatnot, and we can understand that like things have happened in a relationship, but in no scenario is you've been there for 16 months.
That's a long. I thought this was like 2 weeks tops. You know, like
also at the age that these two gentlemen are, like one of you should have matured more if you were there for 16 months. One of you should have been like, I was an asshole, okay? But now at this point, I'm not going to be an absolute animal.
So clearly there's time travel involved as well.
So one of the funniest things that I learned in reading this introduction when they're talking about just things don't make sense in this is that, so from Milan to Verona, they're both in the middle of Italy, and like you can just walk there. There's the whole first part of this play is about how they take a ship there. It's like taking a ship from Cincinnati to Cleveland. It's just like you could do it, but why the whole thing is written from like a mid-millennium Englishman's idea of just like, I don't know, Italy. I bet they get on ships a lot, and Verona or Milan or Mantua.
Hey, how are you getting from the Lower East Side to Midtown? I'm taking a ship.
Taking a seaplane.
What the hell are you talking about?
Like, exactly. Like someone in Japan's like, oh, I want to write this Manhattan thing. So obviously I'm going to assume that everyone takes seaplanes to get from Greenpoint to Williamsburg.
I didn't know that. I like stupidly. I'd never even considered the geography, and it just goes to show you that Shakespeare didn't know what the fuck he was.
No, he either didn't know or he didn't give a fuck.
Right.
I think
two arbitrary cities in Italy. You know,
either last time we talked or the time before that, I was really excited that Julia's assistant was going to take control of her house, and like the cool person's going to be in charge. Never hear from her again.
She's
Right?
gone.
There's so many
She's
people who are
gone.
just like, and I bet this will be a thing. No, it won't. Julia cross-dressing. I don't think it ever actually like moves the play forward at all. If she was just a woman with a handkerchief over her head, you could achieve the same things.
It serves. I mean, the only thing it serves is to like, I guess, to perfectly veil her in a way that Proteus can behave exactly the way that he ends up behaving.
he's gonna be Proteus with the guys, real Proteus.
But it's like even that doesn't make any sense because in theory Julia is dressed like a very young man, like a teen, like a late teen thing. So that that implies that Proteus was like, I'm going to rape this woman, and that teen kid can look. I mean, it doesn't matter. He can watch.
But to be fair, a teen with a zucchini stuffed in his pants. Like a teen, you're like, whoa!
And look, he likes it.
Check this out. We got Tom Jones over here. The last thing that I learned in reading an introduction to this is that this play has more. This is one of his shortest plays, but this play mentions love more than anything else, which is actually interesting because love becomes an excuse to do anything. It's just like,
it does.
Why'd you burn that house down? I'm in love. Just don't. I'm in love.
Yeah.
That's why I ran over the cat. I'm in love. So I threw a refrigerator onto an old man. Like, just don't ask. I'm in love.
And I think that it's important to point out because, gentle listener, if there's one thing that I've read some Shakespeare in my time and have performed Shakespeare, and this is I've never read this play, and this was the first play. And don't get me wrong, fucked up stuff happens in Shakespeare all the time, where
you think he knows
something doesn't make sense. Yeah, like horrible scenes of like murder and betrayal.
Your parents,
absolutely, like feeding your enemies, your enemies to your enemies, family. It like a lot of stuff goes down. This was the first play that I read where I went, what? where I read the things that happen in these two acts, 4 and 5, are it doesn't surprise me that that you suggest that some of the stuff is missing, because it is so fast, the pace is so fast, and B, there are so many, like we talked about Proteus's heel turn. This was the opposite whiplash effect in Act 5, where it goes completely the other way, and it makes no sense that he didn't earn any of his forgiveness at all. It's the whole thing. This is like amateur hour. Like it's really
literally like Shakespeare. It's like the producer came to Shakespeare and is like, actually, we want to put it on tomorrow night. And he's like, what? He's like, so you're mostly done, right? He's like, I've just started the 5th act. He's like, I'm sure it'll be fine. Just you got 5 minutes. You got 5 minutes. Give me an ending. He's like,
I don't mind telling you, I've got a lot of loose ends here.
Mr. Producer, I just wrote a rape scene. You got 5 minutes. Forgive
I want a comedy. Make it funny.
What the hell? Yeah, no, I marketed this as a comedy. You did what?
Didn't you see the posters? They're everywhere.
Also, things disappear. Speed, gone. Like the guy who's interesting and like he has 2 lines in the first scene, and where he's just talking directly to the audience. The first one, let me find it. He just turns to the audience and says,
like these guys are bad.
Yeah, he's like, here's the thing that's happening. Yeah, he says, here's the fellows that everyone speaks of, for they are dangerous. It's just like,
and he's like, I'm out of here. Exit stage right. Even it's an incredible, like we talk. It's interesting that we're doing it somewhat chronologically, because if you look at the chronology, like on the Royal Shakespeare Company website and stuff, it's all mixed around because they don't know.
No, it's like the Bible. We're just like, and listen, some of these Shakespeare might not have written. Honestly, like this is a marketing gimmick. We don't know what he wrote. We don't know when he wrote it, but
no idea.
A book.
Yeah, but I mean, if we are to assume that these are part of his early works, It makes sense. It makes sense
Yeah.
because they're not great. You know, Shrew and this play are kind of poorly written, and they're not very satisfying. The only character that has a decent arc, even though it's a very screwed up arc, is Julia. Like she's the only one who actually goes through anything
Yeah.
and has to make a decision and is changed by that decision, but in a way that is like the way you wouldn't
Yeah,
expect.
no, like Julia's like if you and I'm until we stop doing literal teen comedies for Shakespeare, I'm going to stop. That's when I'll stop referencing teen comedies overall. But it's like if a usual character who pined after someone throughout like an 80s teen comedy, and that person is trash, usually in the third act, you realize that your best friend is who you should love or something. But
Right.
Julia is
Yes.
just like, oh, and I finally got him. I got Blaine. I just saw him rape a woman, but now he's all mine.
She's like the best friend. Excuse me, the best friend character that gets like the consolation boyfriend at the end. You know, the one that nobody wants, the dirtbag. You know, like she's the one like in Wedding Crashers. She's like the other couple, not the Owen Wilson couple, but the Vince Vaughn couple. Like that's who she is. Like that's the archetype. And listen to those beers crack.
That's number one.
But it's interesting that kind of dynamic still remains, because I mean you could easily see that story in, again, I don't know, in such an extreme way, because he did try to rape
So
a woman in front of her.
I want to say this carefully, but like I could be carried along with this because I was talking last time about how this started to take like a Tex Avery like angle on the thing, and I felt like it in reading this, like I felt like it completely left the realm of reality. Like right from Act 4. So Speed says these guys are bad news. These are the guys everyone talks about. They're the murderers. Mm-hmm. And Valentine like ends up the leader in like 3 lines in like the exact same way that like Max does in Where the Wild Things Are, or like there's you haven't had kids as long as I have, so I don't know if you've seen Muppets Most Wanted, but like Kermit gets thrown in a Siberian jail and then he's in charge by like 10 minutes in. It reminded me of like in Peter Pan, like Wendy's in charge of the Lost Boys 5 minutes in. Like it reminded me of all those things where it's just like, we're going to tell you these are the worst kids ever. These people are murderers. Or like Ed reminded me of Pee-wee dancing in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, where the bikers are just like, you're one of us. But like,
right,
these people, they're horrible. And then 3 minutes later, they're just like, you should lead us. You're so cool. And like, he does nothing cool. He's like, I was pushed out of town because I had a fight and I killed a guy. And like, it's funny to Tex every way, because first of all, they're like, that's it? You killed a guy and they kicked you out of town? And then they're just like, wait, you're handsome?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Who should lead us?
That's the thing, is twice they mention how attractive he is, and that's like, really kind of the selling thing.
That jawline?
With a jawline like this, we can get stuff done, fellas. Am I right? I mean, the banks rob themselves.
It's just like, listen, Tommy, you're doing a great job leading the gang. Let's be honest. Valentine's got that jawline. He speaks French. Like, come on. Like, he's going to take us places, okay?
You know what I love about the outlaw exchange in that first bit? First of all, it reminds me, I got some strong Trading Places vibes. Like Valentine is now Dan Aykroyd.
Exactly. And right. When Dan Aykroyd thinks he'll be not a rich guy forever, it's just like, well, this is what I am. He just slips right into it.
I'm just going to be a criminal.
Yeah.
like that's my lot in life.
Well, and like Trading Spaces, there are 2 types of people in America. There are rich stockbrokers or criminals, as far as Trading Spaces is concerned. And
there is no middle ground.
Yeah.
But what I like about the outlaw exchange is like the third outlaw starts by saying that he tried to elope with a person.
Tried to do the exact same thing Valentine did. Yeah. And like, seems like a plot point. Never addressed.
Yeah, and then the second guy, I think, killed someone, right? And then the first outlaw finishes that exchange by saying, "And I for such like petty crimes as these," almost like saying like, "Yeah, I did a lot of that kind of same stuff too." Anyway, and then he like he goes,
Ricky fell in love with the wrong girl, and the Duke didn't like it, got kicked out. Billy murdered a guy, and I did stuff like that. Nothing you actually have a problem with.
yeah.
That's hard equivalent. What did you do? And why does Valentine not mention that he did this?
And I also do crimes.
And also, so I want to say out of the gate, there's too many fucking friars in these last two acts.
Oh yeah,
these guys mention Friar Tuck for no reason, and then I don't think we ever actually meet a friar, but they just keep talking about friars throughout this. They're just like, oh,
they keep meeting. Yeah, they keep meeting at a friar's like cell. And like again, let's go meet at so and so's. You know,
it seems like Trailer Park Shakespeare's idea of just like, oh yeah, you know what? I bet Italian people love talking about Robin Hood. The idea that there's two guys kicked out of Milan who are like, oh, by Friar Tuck's bald head. No one in Italy cares about your folk tales in Britain. Like, shut up. No, I don't know. It's just dumb.
That reminds me a lot of though the tendency, because Shakespeare came. I mean, he would have come directly after. And maybe concurrently too. I'm sure it still happened. The Commedia dell'arte tradition in Europe, where they would do improvised shows, and for the most part, they would throw in references that the audience would 100% know. They would always go to a well that they knew. And I think Shakespeare is no different. He's like, hell, I'll mention Robin Hood because the crowd's gonna know that.
Yeah. Just like, let's beat up the sheriff. But it's just. I don't know. It's just so much worse than you expect from Shakespeare to just be like, it's like if you're touring in Cleveland and you're just like, well, this man is as strong as a Cleveland Brown, I tell you.
It's like, well, it's like the Triumph the Insult Comic Dog album where he's got that whole line where he's doing crowd work in various places. He's like, it's always good to be back in Buffalo. Yes. It's like whenever I stop in Chicago, I always go to Bobby Rubino's place for ribs. Just these name drops.
Yeah, you do. You love Bobby Rubino's ribs. So Speed's last line is just like straight up talking to the crowd just to move the plot along. It's just, Master, be one of them. It's an honorable kind of thievery. It's not. It's just saying like, you're still a good guy. And that's one of the things that I enjoy throughout this is that these guys are just chasing people through the woods. And the whole time Valentine's just like, they're good guys. Like they get a little out of control and I got to keep my eye on them. If anyone wanders into the woods, they do chase them for their lives and tie them up and rob them, but they're good guys. They're good guys.
He says something like, it's a lot of hard work keeping them from raping and killing.
I tell you what, they are like a hammer with a nail. Just think you can chase anyone into the woods and beat the crap out of them.
They're cool dudes.
But I have to say, they're good guys. They are good guys. Just want to mention, there's no reason for Valentine's lie whatsoever. Like,
oh, that he killed a guy?
Yeah, he's wandering around. He says, and I believe him. He says, like, I don't care about anything anymore. I've been torn from Sylvia. I'll never see her again. I wish I would die. But as soon as like these guys come up, he's like, oh yeah, no, here's what happened. I fought a guy to the death, and it was legit. And it's just like, what? Why? There's no reason for your character to be lying. Or no, like Valentine's one of the characters I think I know, and it's just like that was. I can't even come up with a reason for that lie. It's just.
I think if I were directing it, I would have the guy play it either trying to come out extreme so they don't hurt him, like I'm a killer man.
Yeah.
Or he's being maudlin and he's referring to himself as the guy who was killed, because his love is gone, that kind of thing, where it's like he's just feeling sorry for himself. I would have played it either of those two ways.
I would cut the goddamn line.
Or you could just cut it and not do it.
So the other thing I got, we're doing 2 acts here because Act 5 is so slow. I got a lot of Python throughout this, and there's 2 things at the end here. One is that they go back and forth. They're like, you should be our leader. You should be our leader. You should be our leader. and if you scorn this opportunity, thou diest. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, I guess I'll be your leader. And then this is low-hanging fruit, but he says, okay, you can do this, but no robbing people or attacking silly women. It's just
Yeah,
it's just such a Python-esque phrase, but it was just like, all right, if those are our two rules. We will not attack silly women. We love attacking silly women. But
what have the Romans ever done for us?
can't you see Michael
aqueducts?
Palin? You could just see Michael Palin be like, it's not silly. No, she's silly. You can't go attacking women. That ain't silly.
That's a really great line for it's a really great adjective for just a woman who is not like out in the woods by herself.
Yeah.
You know,
as you could tell, and again, like in a Python-esque way where they would just like justify anything, just like, well, she's in the woods, she's silly, so not attacking any honorable women, just silly women.
there's a sketch in Python in one of the shows, one of the TV shows, where it's this I think it's Graham Chapman maybe, and he's in the room with Connie Booth. No, not Connie Booth. The other woman in Monty Python. Oh, well, it'll come to me later on. But they're about to be romantic, and just these guys, this cast of characters invite themselves over, these horrible people. And at one point, John Cleese comes in as, you know, maybe the loudest of all of them, and he just goes up and grabs her breasts. You know, like in this like commotion, you know, like they're making jokes and they're like just being vulgar, and he goes over and he grabs her breast and she screams, and the whole party stops. And John Cleese's line is, "Shut up, you silly bitch! It's only a bit of fun." And then he goes back to the party. Like it's like such a quick, I don't know, the word "silly," you know, in reference.
No,
to
that's
Python,
I don't know. Silly will always remind me of Python. I can't.
Carol Cleveland.
I feel
that's her name, Carol Cleveland.
I feel like Cleese always plays the upper class guy looking down the other ones. They'll be doing something. He's like, it's rather silly, isn't it? Like, no, it's not. I don't know.
Yeah. He makes a good bully, and he makes a good. He just makes a good snob. Like he was the best at making people feel small.
He's not dead, is he?
John Cleese?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No.
He's the past.
In fact, he's very active on Twitter, actually.
Really?
Oh, yes.
All right, that's delightful. I have to follow. All right, you got anything from scene one where he meets?
Scene one? No, that I have. We've touched all the things I.
Don't use that phrasing around Proteus.
Yeah, no. Speaking of Proteus, scene two.
I
love it. You know what I love about scene two, and what I love about the relationship between Proteus and Sylvia for the rest of the play is that Sylvia just fucking lays into him the whole time.
She does not give him a fucking inch. He's just like, I'm watching these flowers. He's just like, those flowers are dying. Like, I wish you would die. Just like, there's no.
And he. It's funny because she's bringing up exactly how shitty he's being. And he's getting like he's basically saying like in the lines in between, he's kind of like, why won't she stop calling me a jerk? He doesn't understand it.
It's funny because he like says that loud. He's like, so just because I abandoned my fiance and betrayed my friend, like she's always gonna think I'm untrustworthy.
Yeah, and she's like,
he says it out loud. And everyone's like, he's like, yeah, that's you got it. That's exactly it. He's like, well. Like how's that?
Just like incel, just like that you know, like that whiny, like why don't girls like me?
Speaking of incel, he's got this line where so everyone I feel like in the Shakespeare universe thinks they can justify anything by saying it's a saying. You can stab someone and you say, well, it's a known saying, stab a man in green, you'll live to be 13. And they're like, oh yeah, well it's a saying, so you can do it. And what does he say? He says, line 20, let me find it. He's talking to Thurio, who we just is continually referred to as a scumbag. He's like, well, you know that love will creep in service where it cannot go. It's like, oh, so you get a no and you're going to creep around. That's not a saying.
Yeah.
B, that's gross. C, ew.
Yeah. That again, the subtitle for this play should have been "No means no." because like many times in the play,
except the play
Valentine
does not
says it
reinforce
too.
that fact. It should be no, should be no.
Yeah, but Valentine says something to the same effect. Not like 2 acts ago, where he's basically like, "Hey, if she doesn't like it at first, you got to keep trying." And it's like, no, man. If somebody doesn't like you, walk away. How about walking away?
So, strongly disappointed that there's nothing in the play itself that lets us know how bad these singers are. And I know that gives the production some space to like do what they said they were going to do, but like I was hoping for something there. But so the players sing their song, and then in like the most creepy incel way, he's like, "Did you notice my voice? Well, if you realized how much you'd love me, you'd recognize my voice." And it's just like, dude, you suck so bad. He's evil, but he's also creepy in a way that's just like, I don't know. I'm impressed in the same way that you could find a way with Shrew to like say like, oh no, he understands dudes. Like, this guy's a creepy dude.
I don't see how, like, when the scholars got together to categorize all these plays, I can't imagine somebody's like, well, let's see, and then later he tries to rape. A comedy, we'll call it a comedy. I mean, it ends in a marriage, right? Like it's so
no, they
arbitrary.
Totally did, because I have my college Shakespeare book, and so there's introductions throughout all of them, and I bet the essays in there are probably about 20 years old, and it refers to the attempted rape as just like, and scholars have no answer for his very untoward movement towards, and just like when he says, "I'm going to rape you like a soldier," is that what you mean about the untoward moment? Like,
yeah, he says force, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'm
with the ye, not the u.
And he says his whole thought process. Well, I've tried being nice, so I guess this is all I can do.
And that's the thing, is like scholars have no answer for that. Are they purposefully misreading it because they don't want to admit that it is just not a great scene? Like, it's just not. It's poorly written. You know, like, because everything that happens after that, everything that happens after that shouldn't happen. It should make sense. I mean, unless that's what you're calling the comedy.
Valentine comes in and murders him, or the banditos string him up or something. There's various places that Fifth Act could go, but not. You're good. All right, we'll get there. You were talking about how good Sylvia is at giving him shit. There's lines around 108 where it's great because like Sylvia's like, "I despise you," and Proteus is like, "Oh no, listen, you don't get it. My old girlfriend is dead." And she's like, "What about your friend you're betraying?" She's like, "He's dead too."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well then fine. Then consider me dead to you too because I don't like you." And he's like, "Well then let me dig up your love." And she's like, "Go dig up your old girlfriend."
Yeah. It's maybe the best exchange in the whole play. It really is. I actually wrote something down that Proteus has no game, so he can't think in the moment. So like, yeah, she's dead. What about your friend? He's dead too. It's like, what? That really?
That's you know that's her love. You're like, I heard he's dead too. Oh, did I not tell you that? Oh yeah, I heard he's dead.
he's dead too. So
I guess you and I should die.
So like, how many hours would it take you to get over that? Like, give or take.
And then I know there are men like this, and that what Proteus does towards the end is he essentially says, "Send me some pics and I'll leave you alone."
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, fine. No, then send me some pics and I'll leave you alone. I'm just like, oh, you are the dirtiest fucking dirtbag.
You can 100% modernize this, you know, just text me some pics.
Just like, otherwise I'm going to keep calling. Like, if you want me to catcall you, then just like send me some pics.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like it's like, and she like grudgingly does it too. Like, she's kind of like, you want a picture?
Even my Cro-Magnon introductory editor was just like, and we don't understand why she gives him the picture. Like, so even like J. Evans Pritchard or whoever is writing this thing, it's just like, and no scholar understands why the hell Sylvia gives him the picture. He's clearly going to masturbate to it, and she clearly wouldn't want that, so we don't know why.
I'm trying to picture like, the great actor like John Gielgud doing this scene was I'll just take the picture.
How about a shadow of you? Just if I can't have the real thing, then let me at least have a shadow, because my love is a shadow. Just God. But at least she doesn't. She says, "Fine, I'll give you a picture. Get out." So at least she's getting rid of him for a second. Like,
Yeah.
I think a woman director or a woman analyst could say, like, yeah, that's what she's doing. She's getting rid of him. She's saying, yes, sometime in the future, send me someone who isn't you to pick up the picture and maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all I have to say about that.
All right.
And by the way, Julia's response to the news that she herself is dead is kind of low key. He's like, she's dead, and she's like, well, I know that's not true. like it's not as incredulous as maybe I wanted it to be.
Well, it's
what the fuck.
Julia reminds me of, like, if the two dudes remind you of like the worst bro dudes from like middle school or like early high school, Julia reminds me of like human beings that are worse with no confidence. We're just like, I'm not dead, and I hope you still maybe we can get together. I mean, he says I'm dead, but I'm not dead. She's like, oh, Julia, you're so much better than this. Go hang out with your cool assistant. But like,
he sounded a little like Stephen Root there from Office Space. I'm not dead.
Essentially, Stephen Root. Yes.
I believe you have my stapler.
All right, you got anything else from scene 2?
Only stuff for Lance, which I'll address in scene 4.
It's coming. Lance is coming. All right, scene 3. All I have is that Sylvia, when Sylvia talks about Valentine, like, she strikes me as like just a regular Shakespeare character. I'm like, oh, you're talking about someone that you love and you miss, and like I like the language that you use, like the metaphor you use, and it just seems like I just respect you as a person, and I feel like you want someone who's not there. And It seems so out of touch with the rest of this that's just batshit insane. And I was exercising before, and I listened to an old Tom Waits album, and I was like, oh, this is like it was Tom Waits maudlin stuff, just like singing about a woman, and it was just like, oh, but this is the same sort of thing. You're just like saying, brr, 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 brr. But it was the same sort of like heartstring pulling metaphors, and it was just like, okay, great. Like, I understand the world that you're in. This makes sense. And my only other note for scene 3 is too many fucking friars, because they talk about at least one more friar in here.
Those friars, deep friars. It was deep on friars. But I honestly, I agree. I think it was actually quite, nice the way she, like, it reminds me of, and I think I've talked about this before, but, it was pretty typical in comedy for a long time. Like, even still today, like I just mentioned, Wedding Crashers, which is in that outline of comedic romantic comedies, where you've got the straight couple, which is those are the ones we're supposed to learn from. Those are the ones we're supposed to hang our hats on. And then you've got the parallel couple, the joke couple, that is, like in the Marx Brothers.
Yeah.
Like in the Marx Brothers, it was Groucho and Margaret Dumas. Those were the joke couples, that were parodying the other couple, and for that's it. It is that in that, but none of it feels earned in this. Like, if it was unclear to us, if you recall, that that Valentine and Sylvia were even together up until when he's banished. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, she really does like him a lot.
It's interesting in that, like, you and I both thought Valentine was talking out his ass when he was like, oh, I'm gonna go up and first of all, we had no idea she loved him, and we had no idea he was gonna climb up and take her out of her tower. I like her a lot in this scene, but it's completely unearned. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's so strangely, like, it's almost like there's a lot of secrets that, one of the things I like about Shakespeare as a performer was always that he gives you hints on what the character is thinking within the line, and in the cadence of the line and the punctuation of the line. He's not there yet with these characters, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he's not there yet in his writing process. So, like, it feels like he's keeping a lot from us.
No, it almost,
which is atypical of him,
it feels like if you like, if you want to figure out like how the hell am I going to move this, am I going to move this scene ahead or this story ahead? You could be like, well, what could Proteus do in this scene? He could rape her. That would move the scene along. And he's just like, okay, cool,
I'll
we'll
say.
rape her. It's just like so. I completely agree. Like he's, I think what he does do a good job of is saying like, I'm going to come up with a character and like they're going to embody what I would need to get done here. But like, I think he's figuring it out in Act 4 or whenever he figures it out. Like, and he clearly, I don't think he knew in Act 1 that there'd be an attempted rape in Act 5.
No, it surprised even Shakespeare.
He's just sitting there, and again, I'm assuming he's under deadline from the producer, and he's just like, I gotta have Valentine break cover. What prompts him to break cover? Because he thinks they're both ghosts. So what's gonna, I don't know, rape.
And what's funny is that back in the day, they wouldn't give you the whole, as an actor in Elizabethan times, they wouldn't give you the whole script. They would give you your sides, just your part. Mm-hmm. And I can't imagine what the guy playing Proteus must have thought when he looked down. He's like, I'm going to rape her? I'm going to try to rape her?
So to be clear, I don't then rape her, right? Please tell me I don't do it. Well, you refer to the first line on the pamphlet, which says comedy.
I was not seeing this coming.
Nor was anyone. Okay, scene 4, I gotta say, Lance is kind of growing on me. At the very least, Crab. I'm a big Crab fan.
He's in love with his dog, right? That's the joke.
Well, first of all,
that's got to be it.
I have no idea, but I'm just saying. I'm just gonna say
because he has that whole thing in the other act about he's got this love of his life.
No,
it's the dog, right? Like, am I missing something? That's got to be it.
I don't think necessarily, because I think he was going to give the dog away to Sylvia, and he was fine with that. I think he just has a deranged relationship with his dog, and he can't understand reality. But I am on the record as loving Crab, and here we learn about Crab's tragic backstory, where his 3 to 4 deaf siblings
drowned.
Just like right away, he's just like, "Well, why are you angry at me? All your deaf brothers and sisters were drowning, but I saved you." And just
we learned that Crab was the best of the litter.
It's for me, it is like a sub lizard brain joke, but Crab's deaf siblings drowning. Something about it that just I just love it so much. I love that Crab runs under the table and pisses all over the nice dogs. I love that Lance can recognize the specific smell of Crab's piss. I love that there's a guy in Lance's telling whose job it is to hang dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm the guy that hangs the dogs.
I did 4 yesterday.
I am not in any way forgiving the anti-Semitism of early acts, but oh my God,
he's like that guy you run into at a bar. He's harmless.
Well, and he's like
old anti-Semitic
just
Lance.
Like the way he's talking to himself, where he says like, I have a completely untrained, insane dog who pees on women, and I get put in the stocks for it, and that means I'm noble. I just love like his brain. You just mentioned Stephen Root in Office Space. His brain works at like an Office Space management level, where he's just like, see, I'm a great guy because my dog shits on everyone and pisses pure sulfur. But I'm such a good guy that I let myself be put in the stocks for it. I'm sorry. I love Crab and I love it.
Which is why I think he is in love with his dog, and this is why I think Lance and his dog and Crab fit into the whole thesis of the play. Where, I mean, I think it's Proteus or Valentine. I can't remember who says it, but they basically call out the thesis of the whole play later on, being like, "Well, men are capricious. They do crazy things, for love." And I think that Lance's taking the rap for Crab's pissing under the table, is an act of love. And I think it's like that's your comic metaphor of like love is this
and this telling
incontinent, ungrateful dog.
Yeah, I love that because like then and this telling love can make you do anything. Love forgives any act. And yes, this guy loves his dog, and his dog
Yeah.
pisses hot fire. I just
He's irrationally have his dog. Where the dog clearly is a liability.
I will say it
But,
doesn't make sense. The other thing that I love in Lance's telling is that so he's supposed to give Sylvia like a cute little lap dog, and
Oh, right.
so first of all, that lap dog gets robbed by muggers, which I just find hilarious. Muggers stealing a small dog, and then he refers to it as a squirrel, and just again in the same part of my brain that Crab hits, referring to a small dog as a squirrel by just an absolute idiot. Just I don't know. I just love it. Just the fact that he can't tell the difference between a dog and a squirrel. It just works really well for me. That's it. I'm completely on board with your metaphor that like, I love my dogs. So it's fine.
And my love for my dog is like the love of the rest of the play. You see, audience, wink, wink.
I will say that it seems, again, this seems like part and parcel of Shakespeare not having it yet, but like, I don't think that Proteus is capable of having like a decent idea, like giving her a cute dog. And so the idea that like Lance, it doesn't mean it would have worked, but the thrust of the act is almost, of the scene is almost that like it would have worked if Lance wasn't an idiot. And we all know that nothing that Proteus is going to do is ever going to work. And so like that's the only thing that really falls off for me is just like, it's funny to see Proteus slap around Lance or whatever, but just like there seems to be a clear suggestion that like if not for this fuck up, then like she would have gotten a gift she wanted or something. And so that feels, I don't feel like he has the characters lined up effectively there, and that like Proteus should say what he wants to say and be slapped around by Sylvia. That's what we want to see. We don't want to have Proteus to have some excuse that like, oh, if you'd taken the right dog, this would have worked out.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Lance.
So, I again, I know you don't agree with me with how we feel about Lance, but I will say like Proteus, he walks on screen and calls Lance a whoreson peasant, and then refers to him as a slave, and I'm just like, yep, that's your lane, Proteus. You're a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Here.
And totally dismissive. What I love about it is Proteus is totally dismissive of fake Julia's like horror at everything that he says. She's like her reactions.
Oh, he's completely disrespectful.
he's like, yeah. Give this ring to Sylvia, would you? Like she's like, oh my god. Oh.
Do you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of in Beetlejuice when he's getting married to Lydia, and he pulls out the finger with the ring on it. And he's like, she meant nothing to me, babe. She meant nothing. Because she does a great job of saying like, no, this is why I'm sad, because I'm imagining this girl somewhere. And he's like, yeah, well, anyway. like she is completely doing a good job of acting the part of a rational person, saying like, it's kind of sad that there's this woman somewhere who loves you right now, and you're going and doing this, that you gave her a ring, and now you're doing this with another woman. He's like, so deliver the ring?
Yeah, so you're going to deliver, right? Like, just totally not.
It's so sad for Julia. Like, that's the one place where like she has no arc, because her arc is just like that of a beaten dog.
Oh yeah, and it's like I think I mentioned this in Shrew, that story of my friend worked with a woman who said like they asked her as a joke how many times she could be hit by a man before she left him, and she really thought about it and said 2. And she said like 2. That's what Julia reminded me of. It actually reminded me of my wife and I are watching The Affair, and the main character's daughter is an abusive relationship, but she's also working for the guy. And she says she has that same kind of rationale where it's like, well, tomorrow's a very busy day, and he's an art opening, and and her dad has to be like, you're defending a guy who just hit you, And Julie is very similar. Like she's got this heartbreaking monologue about how can I carry out my master's duty, which is my master
just undermine me.
Yeah, what he's asking me to do is in effect undermining our relationship. The thing that I want. It's so sad that she even thinks that way. That she's not she sees it as she sees it as something she has to do, but she knows how destructive it is, and she's miserable,
Yeah, I think the only way you could produce it is to like have her be just like an obvious moron. Like the interpersonal dynamic that I was reminded of was Pee Wee and Miss Yvonne, where like she's just like in love with Pee Wee, and he's just like, girls, but it's just like, okay, well, we know that like this is a world where there's Pee Wee and Miss Yvonne and Cowboy Carl and whatnot, so it's fine. There's actually no stakes, but if you put any stakes on it, then it's atrocious to watch. Sorry, one other thing I got from the
I was thinking about that big butt line from Pee Wee's Big Adventure. It's like everybody has a big butt. Isn't it like show me your big butt, or
it's show me a big butt,
or what is your big butt? I can't remember how it goes.
So there's at least two possible plays that he cribbed this from, and they're both way more problematic than this one. In one of them, there's two friends, and what they decide to do is they're like they have their different loves all switched up, and so what they decide to do is the one guy says he's going to marry girl number one. Guy number one says he's going to marry or says he's in love with girl number one, but guy number two sneaks into her bedroom and has sex with her. And by law at the time, well, then they have to get married. And so he pulls a god-awful switcheroo with her. And so that's horribly, horribly horrible. But what happens in here is that there's clearly an avenue like left open for it in a bigger fifth act, because Proteus says to what's her face? Julia says to her, he's just like, so go, give her the ring, and you can find me in my bedroom where I'll be sad and lonely all by myself, just feeling sorry for myself. And it was just like, like if you pulled a switcheroo with him and he had to marry you, like I would love that. Like I would love nothing more than you being trapped in a marriage because you walked into a darkened bedroom and said you weren't who you said you were. And then the morning light came up and you're like, married.
That would have been an interesting twist.
I would have been really happy with that. Like, I guess what I want to see.
And again, a lot like Wedding Crashers, because doesn't something like that happen with Vince Vaughn's character? He's somehow finagled into the relationship at the end. Doesn't she say she's pregnant or something? I can't remember how it goes.
Yes,
but
something like that. Well, she said she was a virgin. And
yes.
I don't know if she said she's pregnant or not, but that does sound like that.
There's some way that he is essentially snared by her, and I can't remember how it goes. But like Julia, like in general, like the very last monologue she has comparing herself to Sylvia's picture it's heartbreaking. And she's got a line where she says, "And were there sense in this idolatry, my substance should be statue in thy head." Like this idea, like he's in love with this fucking picture, and I'm right here. Like I'm a flesh and blood person, and he cares for this picture of a woman over the idea of me. So it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking for Julia, but we are also either Shakespeare's like really playing to the cheap seats, or it's a good portrait of what happens to people when they're desperate and sad and they resort to bad things. But like we are now at the point of the play where we just start slipping down the slope of talking about like, and let's just keep stressing that things that are white are good and things that are black are bad, because she's looking at the picture and she's just like, I'm whiter than her.
Yeah.
Wig, it's fine. I don't know. I don't know. She like it's the first time she says, but I'm fair, and then after this it steadily goes downhill on that. I will say on the Tex Avery note, her raving at the picture, like, because at some point she's like talking about how she would claw the eyes out of the picture. It reminds me of Lance talking to the shoes. Like you can just make this about a bunch of idiots who yell at inanimate objects.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because right after this, in scene 7, or just like Thurio says to Proteus.
Do you have a
he's like,
scene 7?
I might have counted wrong. Where's 4?
4, and then I have Act 5, Scene 1.
Oh, maybe is that
Do you have an
Thurio
extra
talks
act
about
that
how- Let me get it. 4, 5, 4. No, I just counted wrong.
Oh, okay.
When is
Yeah, because
Thurio-
it's funny you were saying that, because in Scene 2 of Act 5, they use the phrase black men to refer to ugly men.
Yeah, no, it's no good.
But I would love to see. There has to have been a production of this where they use that in an interesting way.
I feel
Like Thurio played by a black man would be funny. Like if there's like a self-referential moment to the audience, kind of like, what are we talking about here?
Well, that's good. Like that's almost how you'd have to deal with it. Okay, I know why I thought there was a Act 7 because I had Act 5, then 2 Little Eyes after it for Scene 2. But that's also because there's nothing fucking happens in Scene 1. It's like, should we go into the woods?
No.
Let's go into the woods.
Yeah.
Let's mention a fucking friar for no reason.
Eglamour. Yeah, that's a funny thing. All the talk of friars. Why couldn't Eglamour have been a friar?
Just have the friar appear at some point. If we're talking about friars.
It's what Chekhov said. If you have a gun above the fireplace, somebody better shoot that gun.
It's interesting that like it feels like both like how Shakespeare scenes or how Shakespeare plays will be plotted out better in the future, but it also feels like when she says, let's run, the forest is just 3 leagues off. It feels like the third act of like, what's the Larry David show?
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Curb Your Enthusiasm, where it's just like people say like, let's go do the thing we mentioned in the first act. Like, it's just like, Larry David's the bowling alley. And so it's like, let's go to the bowling alley. It's just like, okay, we know where this is going. But it's just like, everything in here is just like, let's go to the place that the other character just mentioned. Okay, so this
and there they are.
Yeah, there they are. So then we get to the woods, and I'm just so disappointed to have Thurio say, like, what did she say about me? She says she likes your face. Well, I know that's not true because my face is black. It's just like, first of all, I've been told to dislike Thurio, so I don't like the fact that he's the only person of color on stage. Second of all, I don't even know what to do with his characterization. Well, someone who would say that. Like, what...
Right.
I'm just like, I'm going to cut that line if I'm producing this play because I don't know what you mean by that. Like,
yeah, and you don't have the luxury to stop the play and explain how black was being used in that particular line.
But even in like, so yes, I guess so. My notes say that he means swarthy by that, but even so, like. So does a swarthy Italian think of himself as like, no one can think of me as handsome? And let's say that even if that were true, are we saying that like the English crowd gets that joke that way? I don't think we are. Like, I don't know. It's just like cut the line.
Yeah, I'm more than confident saying that that's like, yeah, black guys.
It's funny.
No one finds them attractive.
Get it? Elbow? No, I just wrote "please no" in my notes.
Yeah, no, I can't see it as being interpreted any other way.
And it ruins like. So it's not clear why Julia seems like such a sad lapdog because she's doing asides about Thurio the whole time, and it's like you don't have a dog in this fight. Like if anything, this is a guy who is going after someone and is unloved. So you should in some way identify with him. Like he's never going to get what he wants. She's repulsed by him. Does this ring any bells, Julia? Like, you shouldn't be dogpiling on him. And so, like, it doesn't make sense as a characterization in the first place, but all the more that he's just like, yeah, it's because I'm black. Just, oh.
Well, those little asides, it reminded me a lot of, like, a vaudeville, like, early vaudeville stuff where, Julia's just talking to us, the whole time. And
she is, but it's like of all people to dunk on. Like, why?
Oh yeah, Ryan. Why him? Right? Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like, I feel like it just like drains any possible. Like, I would love to see Julia like make fun of someone. but it's sad that like Proteus, the guy that's been the worst to her, is standing right there, and she's making fun of the guy that Proteus wants to make fun of. It's like, don't be Proteus's toady. Like make fun of anyone else in the room, but not someone that Proteus wants to take down a peg.
Oh, I read it. Some of those as being directed at Proteus. No.
Oh, maybe I missed that. No, I missed. I thought she was making fun of Thurio in all of it.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to go and reread it. I thought these were directed at Proteus.
Well, then I would be much more happy.
Well, not directed at anybody really, directed to the audience, but in reference to Proteus, as the sides work. But yeah, like again, like this is where I had the most, like structurally, this is where I had the most problem, because it really is kind of like boom, boom, boom. You know, as you say, we're going to the woods. Everybody's going to the woods. Let's go to the woods. And now that we're in the woods, it's like so much shit is happening at once. Like even in scene 3, it almost reminded me, because that's so short, that scene.
Yeah.
It's basically just the outlaw bringing Sylvia to, headquarters. And it seemed like an old, like, silent movie where the bad guy comes up and, like, has the woman tied up and does, like, a lot of gesticulating and,
no,
like,
again,
it's, like, the piano, rapid piano music plays in the background. It's like just serving a purpose. It's like filler,
No, I again went to Python when she's being pulled along. She's like, "Oh, I've seen this before. I know what to do." Like again, I went right to Michael Palin, like about to say, like, "Help, I'm being repressed." He was just like, "Oh, here you go, look at it. Well, not." Just, like the whole thing, just both the shortness of the scene and just the talking to the audience. It's just like, "Don't worry, I'm not in danger. I've been kidnapped many times, so I'm cool with this." It's just like, also like. With Shakespeare not having his shit together, like, so these guys are Bandit 1, Bandit 2, Bandit 4, 5, 6, and for no reason they're like, what's Moises up to? What's Valerius up to? And it's like, so 2 guys off screen, one of whose name is Valerius. He sounds like a goddamn Lieutenant Transformer. Like, it's just bizarre to be like, let's give these 2 guys names, and like I couldn't think of, again, this like hits me on the same level as Crab the dog does, but the idea that there's 2 guys, one's name is Moises and one is Valerium, they're just out of 2 separate stories. Like, I don't know. I know
it's
know
like
the Moises
Shrew.
story. I know the Valerium story. They're not the same fucking story. These guys aren't hanging out together.
It's like in Shrew, the cast of men who live with. I almost said Humperdinck.
It's close to Humperdinck.
Yeah. We just read this.
Wait. You're talking about the king shitbag?
No, the bunch of the dudes who live with Petruchio. You remember, like, there's like a bunch of male.
He's like,
just like
Jankowitz,
yeah.
Jackowitz,
It's like
Bill,
Dan, Freddie.
The third guy's name's like Bill or something. It's just like, wait.
And one guy had a nickname too. Like one was like Tenderfoot.
It's just like, you've got. Here's a good news, Shakespeare. You are getting memorable names. I don't think you've nailed connotations yet. It's just like, it's just like, I don't know. Just like if I was going to come up with names for bandits, just like Moises and Valerian. Just like, I want you to take those and put them in your desk, because those are both going to be useful in the future. Those are not your 2 bandits off screen right now. Also, they're just chasing this old man in the woods, and we never hear what happens to him at all.
No,
they're just like, oh, they got him treated. It'll be fine. And like this sweet old man who we learned loved a woman who died, and so Sylvia goes to him, and in what seems like a sweet scene, goes into the woods with her, and all we ever hear is just like, oh yeah, they got him cornered. It'll be fine.
Well, at first though, like, because I thought he was almost like a Polonius type, where it's like this sweet old guy, he's wise, like he's gonna help out, and like one of the bandits says something like he's fast. They say something to the effect of like, he really took off. We couldn't, like, he's really fast.
So much odd characterization about how fast this old man is. You know, he's a widower. He runs fast.
Like seriously, like total sprint. Like he dusted us.
Just flat gone. apparently he's appeared before, and apparently for some reason you know that there's two different characters with the same name as well.
For Eglamour?
Yeah.
Really?
There's like some Eglamour at some earlier part of the play, and the two have nothing in common. So again, it leads to a suggestion that just like Shakespeare liked the name Eglamour and forgot between Act 1 and Act 4. It was like, oh shit, did I use that?
That's interesting.
That name, Eglamour.
I didn't even put those two things together. Wow. Okay.
So speaking of like Shakespeare not having his shit together, but like starting to get there, like, so Valentine's on his own. He's saying like a good soliloquy about how much he misses Sylvia, and he refers to her as a wood nymph right before she walks on screen. And from like the vague timeline that we have, he does Midsummer next, and so it's just like, okay, you're not connecting Act 1 and Act 5, but you're starting to think about where this is going from here, and that's like actually a beautiful thing that like he thinks he'll never see her again. He thinks of her as a wood nymph, and she comes on screen. It's just like, oh, that's nice and touching. That's actually really well done. It has no place in this play, which is fucking bonkers.
Right.
But like, that's wonderful that you're imagining her as a wood nymph and she walks on screen.
He's got some, like, Shakespeare definitely has some really beautiful moments like that. And you'll see that in The Winter's Tale too, where the king's wife was reportedly frozen with some kind of spell or something. And then she kind of comes to life at the end. And it's a really beautiful moment, very touching, and like that little hint of mysticism in there, you know, and magic.
No, there's so many times where he does that beautifully, where it's just like someone who's lost hope to ever see a loved one again thinks they're having a vision, and then they realize they're there. Like that always works, and this feels like him like being like, oh shit, I think I had something there. This play's fucking goulash, but like I'm gonna use that again.
Yeah.
This again has him being like, my bandits, they're chasing people through the woods again. We'll solve that later. Valentine is a good guy, but like, yeah, he's just completely fine with these guys doing violence in the woods.
Which actually sets up pretty nicely how quickly he forgives Proteus.
Well, so
I'm a hardened guy now.
The fucking timeline before Proteus gets to the fucking rape, they're fucking captured, and he's like, I love you so much that I would save you from a guy like Thurio, who would, quote, have forced your honor and your love. 10 minutes later, he's such a scumbag. He's just like, I saved you from a guy who might, I don't want to speculate since he's, swarthy, but I think he might try to do something. You're not up for it? Well, guess what? It's just like what he's asking for her there is to give him a smile. Like, again, like, you can give Shakespeare too much credit for like being relevant now, or you could just say like, no, men have followed women for 6 million years and said, why don't you smile? Just smile. That's all I'm asking. Just give me a smile. And they're like tied up. They're tied up. And he's like, just give me a smile. And she's just like, I was actually okay before you got here. I'm tied up by bandits right now. And I was okay before you got here.
She actually says, I'd rather be eaten by a wild animal than have to be saved by you.
It's literally like, I'm here to save the day. And she's like, honestly, this is compared to being just like followed around by you. This was fine. Now I'm depressed. Like,
I was actually looking, I now look forward to the torture when you're gone. Because I'd rather be tortured by these three guys than to spend one more second with you. Yeah, like, again, another really great exchange between Sylvia and Proteus, just giving it to him, just like, you are disgusting.
Just a supercut? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, let me find, because there's an actual quote I wanted to.
Is it the one that Proteus says, "In love, who respects friend"? Because I underlined that a million times. Like, what a fucking dick this guy is.
Again, but like, he's just like, well, I'm in love. It's fine.
Right.
I can't find what I was looking for right now, but it's basically, but no, it was Sylvia basically saying she's praying to God. She's just like, heaven, I just beg that you understand how much I detest this man. Just like, go home. Just, I wish someone would understand how much I hate this fucking piece of shit. And so as we've mentioned multiple times, he's like, okay, well, if this isn't going to work, I will woo you like a soldier would. And well, let's just read the entire awful thing. Nay, if the gentle spirit of moving words can no way change you to a milder form, I'll woo you like a soldier at arm's end and love you 'gainst the nature of love. Hyphen, force ye. And Sylvia says, oh heaven. And Proteus then says, I'll force thee yield to my desire. And so
that's rape, folks.
So first of all, that's totally rape. And just I just want to stress that Julia's right there. And so then I feel like you could. How many lines is it from? All right, so the rape is I'll force ye. That's line like 57, and then I am paid is line 77. So 20 lines from a rape to Valentine being like, all right, you're sorry. Well, then what more can I ask of you?
Yeah, it's such a, for all we know, the only thing that stopped Proteus was the fact that he was being watched by somebody he knew.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely the only thing. We know that Julia wasn't going to stop him. Well, first of all, he knew he was being watched by what he assumed was a young man.
Right.
And was good to go. It said someone stepped forward and said, stop, ruffian. And actually, so I really like Valentine, what Valentine says when he comes out of the bushes. Like, it's one of those things when Shakespeare has a character learn new information. They say the world has changed. And he essentially says, I'm sorry, I must never trust thee more, but court the world a stranger for thy sake. The private wound is deepest, O time most accurstest. Amongst all foes that are friends should be the worst. And he's like saying, you're a piece of shit, but also like, I've just realized I can never trust anyone again. Like he's mourning his own innocence. He's mourning that his friend was going to do this. Like, it's a great little line that I could see Othello or Hamlet saying. And again, it feels like you can see Shakespeare being like, that's a good fucking line. That doesn't fit this play, but like, I am going to, because I'm going to bottle this and use this later because this thing's a fucking pile of slop.
Because Proteus in like 4 lines, all he says is basically, I'm really sorry.
He's like, and isn't me being sorry what matters most?
And Valentine,
like, fuck, I'm on deadline. Yes, it is.
And Valentine says, I am paid. What? What do you mean you're paid?
Let's note the same thing that we noted in Shrew. Sylvia, no more lines from here on out. Her last line is, oh heaven, when she's about to be raped. Nothing else. After that, not only are you forgiven, Valentine says, you're forgiven, and I'm so impressed that you apologized. I'm giving my love, giving Sylvia's love to you, as if that's the thing I can do.
Yeah.
And Proteus is just like, thanks, you're solid bro, man. Solid bro. Sylvia, no lines, no.
She has no say in that, no.
But no.
Well, like, thank goodness he doesn't accept.
Oh my God! So
it's such a like shit show. And as I said, like then the thesis is men are fickle. Like everybody kind of throws their hands up and says, "Well, men are fickle. What are you going to do?"
Well, so Julia does have more lines, but when Valentine gives Sylvia's love to Proteus, Julia's line is literally, "Oh me unhappy." It's like Jar Jar Binks or something. She's like, "Oh me so unhappy," and then she acts like she's fainting. It's just like, the fuck is that? You two both got to soliloquize back and forth. She's like, "Oh me unhappy."
Just like, what's wrong with that boy?
Like, you know Shakespeare, Gabe. Like, how could you say that line? Like, how is that line supposed to be said? "Oh me unhappy."
I would put a comma in between "oh me" and "unhappy." I would be like, it would be like, "Oh me unhappy," and then I would be be falling over.
It almost reads like stage direction. It's like, parentheses, unhappy.
Because the only other way to do it is like all of a sudden it's like, oh,
me unhappy.
Oh, me unhappy.
Just go straight.
Me run out of cookies.
Oh, me like Proteus and only Proteus. Me unhappy.
Me unhappy. But that and then when I think it's either Proteus or Valentine goes something like, look to the boy, or like, what's wrong with that kid? It actually reminds me of in Ghostbusters where Dr. Venkman is like, somebody go check on the little guy. At the end, where like Rick Moranis is like crawling out of the rubble.
Well, it's great because Proteus says, "Look to the boy," but then Valentine, because he's a stand-up guy, actually does stuff. So like the lines are like, Proteus says, "Look to the boy," period. There's exclamation points above it and below it. There's no exclamation point here. It's like, "Look to the boy," and then Valentine, all exclamation points. Why, boy? Why, wag? How now? What's the matter? Look up, speak. And so it's just like Proteus is just like, oh, the fucking boy fell down. He's not doing shit. I God damn it, Proteus, you utter shitbag.
And then, against all odds, Julia reveals herself, and they're in love again.
The only thing that I like about where this goes is that Julia. So like they wake Julia up, and Proteus says, "How, Julia?" And she just gets to lead off with "Behold." And I imagine it being almost like just one of the guys where it's like, "Behold, I am a woman. Here's my breasts," or something. But just like the fact that like she gets to give like a Gandalf speech where it's just like, "Behold, here am I that you've been shitting on for 4 acts. You fucking pile of shit." And that's exactly like she leads with "Behold" and just says like, and she says, "You should be fucking ashamed that I had to do this for you. Like, this is the way you treat women. That you had a woman who said she loved you, and you fucking left town, and you said you weren't married, and you said I was dead. You should, like the way people can't see, but I'm gesticulating like Carmela Soprano right now, and that's like what it's like. It's just like, you fucking animal. Like you should know that you're a fucking turd." And so I like that she doesn't get as much as she should, but like I like the fact that she gets to lead with "Behold" and then just get to like give him the hand gestures.
Behold.
And Proteus is just like, "Man, I wish men weren't so inconsistent." And it's like, no, it's not the whole gender.
I almost raped that girl.
See, because men are so inconsistent. It's just like,
you can't predict what I'm going to do next.
or any man. To be clear, it's not a Proteus thing; it's a men thing. Like, look at Valentine. He said he was in love with a woman and stayed in love with her and was exiled and maintained his love for her and became a bandit. So men are inconsistent. They're
crazy.
It's just,
1 second I'm writing a poem, the next I'm trying to force myself upon you.
I'm putting together the worst musical act you've ever fucking heard. The next act, I'm forcing myself a woman. It's crazy.
You don't know with me.
And by me, I mean men. Men generally.
Men in general we're all like this.
Right, Valentine?
We're all capable of rape.
And Valentine's like, "Yeah, I got you, man." And the whole crowd is like, "Valentine, why are you supporting this schmuck? You are."
How many productions of this do you think end in a high five between Proteus and Valentine?
That would be great stage direction. Just be like, "We're good." Just be like,
and then like and a Kenny Loggins songs plays. I'm all right.
Just like, you know, they say the motherfucking Catalina Wine Festival in Step Brothers. Like, that's how they should say the Two Gentlemen of Verona. Just like the two fucking gentlemen of Verona. God damn it! Love these fuckers. They always pull
boats and hoes. Yeah, that's.
Or you should just say boats and hoes throughout. But like, Valentine, like he feels too noble for this play, but I like the way he's just like, "All right, come here. I'm gonna grab your hand. You guys are basically married. Like, you two are both like you said, they are like the B couple, but he's just like, you're together now. Like you're both a pile of trash, but like I'm marrying you." And then Proteus has to say like, "Oh, well then great. Then I have my wish forever." And we all know that like 5 minutes later, you are going to see someone else and be like, "Too bad I can't stay, baby."
Yeah, it really is. Like it's such the whole ending is so A, surprising, and then B, totally lackluster. You know, and I think that's what happens when you put a rape in the end of your comedy.
I think that's what happens when you put 40 lines before a marriage, a rape scene. So I'm thinking Shakespeare learned this overall, is that like you want to space those, or maybe even put those in a tragedy. Like maybe that's not the comedy.
It's really hard to segue out of the rape and have like a genuinely happy ending, because like by the end of the play, it's kind of like a lot of the comedies end where it's like, we're gonna get married. but it really puts a dark, like did no one in the audience be like, what?
I'm picturing Shakespeare getting notes after like the first week and just like, yeah, people keep ads. It's just like red notes on the script, just like rape question mark. Like, what? Where's this going? This seems like a happy bunch.
I've got to be honest with you, Will. We get letters. We've been getting a lot of letters. It's mostly about the rape scene.
So that one line where no one saw that coming. They don't like it. They don't like you specifically.
It was the rape, wasn't it? Ooh.
Speaking of people that no one likes specifically, Thurio has not, as far as I can tell, done anything wrong. Everyone hates him.
Right.
He goes into the woods where we know it's a dangerous place. He gets captured in the woods. He says, oh, there's the woman who I've been expressing my love to for this whole fucking play. And Valentine, who's now the head of an illegal gang, says, if you ever fucking look at her again, I'll fucking kill you. And Thurio's like, you know what? She is not ever giving me a signal that she loves me. You're threatening to kill me. You know what? She's yours. And the Duke's like, you know what, you piece of shit? If that's all it takes for you to drop it, then you go to hell. And it's just like, I think Thurio's kind of being rational here. Like he's tied up. There's a gang leader telling him to not do this. And
well, that's the thing is that the Duke folds just as easily because I think there are a bunch of outlaws with knives pointed at them. You know what I mean?
Well, I love that the Duke talks as if he's in charge. He's like, well, you know what? I think I'll pardon you and you can come back.
Yeah, because he's got a sword at his temple. He's like, you know what? Everybody's pardoned. How about that? He's like,
you could play it either way. You could play that Valentine's in complete control, or Valentine is too stupid to know. Because Valentine's like, really? I'm pardoned? Like, you fucking idiot. Like, yes, he's at knife point. You're pardoned. He's like, holy shit, man, this is great. All right, Dad, let's go for a walk. So the only thing left that I have is that, and this is why I think that you could play Valentine as an idiot, is that Valentine is like, all right, I just ask one thing of you. You pardon these guys. Because they're good guys. They're gentlemen, all of them. And it's just like they chase women through the woods. They have an old man treed right now, and they decided to make you the gang boss because you've got a jawline. Like you are an idiot, Valentine. And so like I think like you could make Valentine an idiot throughout just because of the fact that he's just like, yeah, they like to stab a lot, and it's exhausting to tell them, guys, no murdering silly women. And so just the fact that like it ends there, like makes me feel like I don't think Valentine ever had always had a screw loose the entire time. Like I think he's a good guy, but not all there.
Well, speaking of all these comedies, I think you can easily cast with this ending. You can cast all of the Murrays as like you've got Joel Murray as Valentine. Like you've got like the lesser Murrays. You know,
so give me what Joel Murray's been in.
Oh God,
See the kind of the chubby
One Crazy Summer. Was he in One Crazy Summer?
Okay, One Crazy Summer. Yes. Okay, got it. Yes.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think I have the right Murray.
Yep.
There are several of them.
So that's the One
you
Crazy
get
Summer.
Brian Doyle as the Duke.
Who's One Crazy Summer?
What's
Is
that?
he Proteus? Who's Joel Murray?
I would put him as Proteus just because his goofiness might offset the rape.
Yeah.
And
much like with Ned Beatty.
Right. And I would have Bill as Valentine because he can pull off the.
Yeah.
I'm kind of dumb, but I'm kind of capable.
Likable dumb, like smart but dumb. Yeah, that's the Bill Murray. Yeah.
And you got Brian Doyle as the Duke.
So Brian Doyle is their brother that just doesn't go by Murray?
He's the one who sounds like this.
He's the Caddyshack one?
Caddyshack. And he's the boss in Christmas Vacation. He was I cut out bonuses this year. That's Brian Doyle Murray. And then you could have like the lesser Murrays is like Speed and Lance. Like they're like 14 Murrays. It's like, and they all kind of look like weird. Don't
they
clones.
all kind of look like Joel instead of looking like Bill? Like
yeah, they all kind of look goofy like Joel Murray.
it's like the Penn family. They all look like Chris Penn. They don't look like Sean Penn. Like,
right.
with the exception of Michael Penn, who looks a little bit like Sean Penn. But
Well, that's the thing is like I feel like Bill Murray looks a lot like Brian Doyle Murray, like a bigger version of Brian Doyle Murray because Brian Doyle Murray is a lot shorter. So like, yeah, I think you could easily cast this with the Murrays, and because it does remind me, you know, as we've talked about, like it's like an '80s movie at the end, where it's kind of like, yeah, pumping fists in the air, and then a guitar lick
and
plays.
Last time you were saying Emo Phillips is Proteus?
Oh, Emo Phillips will always be Lance.
Okay, yes, because I was going to say if
Yeah.
Emo Phillips was Proteus, again, the rape scene would just take the tension out of it entirely. Like, well, I've tried other ways,
Going to rape
so now I must take you like a soldier.
Like a soldier.
And then when she was like, "Oh heavens," it would just be like, "All right, she's safe, everyone. She's safe."
Oh heavens then becomes a totally different line. It's like, oh heavens, you are a moron.
Oh heavens.
I am not threatened at all.
In all seriousness, what is going on in this play? Shakespeare's being a real edgelord here. I know you're all wondering, what if Sam Kinison were a playwright in the late 16th century? I mean, the overall feeling an audience should have after leaving the theatre for a comedy is not oof. Fat and Greasy Citizens is presented by the players Chuck and Gabe. The theme song, A Robust Crew, is by Darren Curtis. Next week, Shakespeare will hopefully get a little better at this.